rain tapped against the window like impatient fingers, a perfect backdrop to the chaos in my mind. I sat there, staring at the phone on the coffee table, watching it light up with yet another call I had no intention of answering. Some wounds don't heal with time. They just scab over, waiting for the slightest touch to split open again. My name is Jack Turner, and 3 years ago, I stood alone at the altar in front of 200 guests, holding a ring meant for a woman who never showed. I learned later that Christina was busy eloping with my brother Alex in a small ceremony just outside of town. The same brother who had hugged me the night before and told me how lucky I was. The betrayal wasn't just that she left me. It was that she whispered to me when I finally confronted her, "I'm sorry, Jack. I only dated you to get closer to Alex. He was always the one." Those words carved themselves into my memory, permanent and unforgiving. I take another sip of my coffee, now cold from sitting too long, while I lost myself in memories. The apartment is quiet except for the occasional car passing by outside, headlights briefly illuminating the living room walls before fading away, like so many things in life. That first year after Christina left me was a blur of sleepless nights and therapy sessions. I moved to a new apartment, changed my phone number, and tried to piece together what remained of my dignity. My family didn't understand. "Blood is thicker than water," my mother would say during her weekly calls, as if that simple phrase could erase what Alex had done. My father was more direct. "You need to get over this, son. They're married now, and holding a grudge only hurts you." But they weren't there when I found out that the honeymoon they went on was the one I'd planned and paid for. They didn't see the Instagram photos of Christina and Alex laughing on the beaches of Bali, where I was supposed to be with her. They didn't feel the humiliation of returning all the wedding gifts or explaining to distant relatives what had happened. So I made a decision that shocked everyone, but saved me. I cut them both out of my life completely. No contact, no family gatherings if they were present, no reconciliation. Despite the pressure, despite my parents' disappointment, despite the awkward holidays spent alone, I stood my ground. My therapist called it establishing boundaries. I called it survival. The phone stops buzzing, only to start again a moment later. My sister this time. I let out a long sigh and finally pick up. "Jack," Emily's voice comes through, that familiar tone of forced patience. "Mom and Dad are asking if you're coming to Thanksgiving. Alex and Christina will only be there for dessert, so you could come for the main dinner and—" "No," I say, the word coming out more sharply than I intended. "I'm not doing this dance anymore, Em. I told you last month and the month before that. I'm not going to pretend everything's fine for a few hours just to make everyone else comfortable." There's a pause, and I can practically hear her internal struggle. Emily, always the peacemaker, caught in the middle. "They made a mistake, Jack. A terrible one, yes, but it's been almost 2 years. Don't you think it's time to at least be in the same room with them?" A mistake. That's what they all called it. As if Alex had accidentally put on my coat, or Christina had mistakenly called me by another name. Not as if they had conspired behind my back, betrayed years of trust, and humiliated me in front of everyone I knew. A mistake is forgetting someone's birthday, Emily. What they did was a choice. Multiple choices, made day after day. I hear her sigh, defeated for now, but certainly not giving up. "I just want our family back together. We're never going to be the family we were before," I tell her, softer now. "And that's not on me." After we hang up, I sit in the growing darkness of my living room. The rain has stopped, but the sky remains overcast, heavy with unspent tears. I think about what Emily said about forgiveness and moving on, and wonder, not for the first time, if I'm the one who's wrong. If I'm being unreasonable, childish even, holding on to this anger. Those thoughts dissolve when my phone lights up with a text. It's from Laura, the woman I met 6 months after Christina left, who saw all my broken pieces and never once tried to rush me into putting them back together the wrong way. "Heading home now, Thai or pizza tonight?" I smile, the first genuine one all day. "Thai. And hurry, I miss you." When Laura walks through the door an hour later, her arms full of takeout bags that smell like lemongrass and basil, I feel that familiar warmth spread through my chest. She takes one look at my face and sets the food down. "They called again, didn't they?" she asks, unwinding her scarf and hanging it by the door. I nod, not wanting to rehash the conversation, but knowing I need to. Emily this time. Thanksgiving invitation with the usual, "They'll only be there for part of it," caveat. Laura sits beside me on the couch, tucking her feet beneath her. She doesn't immediately tell me what I should do or how I should feel, and that's one of the countless reasons I fell in love with her. She listens. "What did you say?" she asks finally. "The same thing I always say?" "No." She nods, reaching for my hand. "And how do you feel about that?" I look at our intertwined fingers, her thumb gently stroking the back of my hand. Guilty, relieved, angry that I still have to make this choice at all. She leans her head against my shoulder. "You're allowed to protect yourself, Jack. No matter what your family thinks, no matter how much time passes. Only you get to decide when or if you're ready to face them again." I kiss the top of her head, breathing in the scent of her shampoo. "Thank you for understanding." We eat dinner in comfortable conversation, talking about her day at the architectural firm and the new project I'm working on. For those few hours, I forget about Alex and Christina, about family obligations and old wounds. It's just us in the home we've built together, both literally and figuratively. But at night, when Laura's asleep beside me, I stare at the ceiling and think about my nephew's birthday party next month. Another event I'll miss because his parents will be there. I think about how my mother's voice gets tight when she talks about Alex and Christina's kids, my niece and nephew, who barely know me. I think about the family photos where my absence is conspicuous, the holidays spent with friends instead of relatives, the gradual acceptance that this estrangement might be permanent. The guilt creeps in during these quiet hours, whispering that I'm being stubborn, that forgiveness would free me more than them. But then I remember Christina's face when she finally told me the truth. Not remorseful, but relieved to stop pretending. I remember Alex's message a week after the non-wedding. "I'm sorry it happened this way, but when it's real love, you can't fight it." Real love. As if what Christina and I had was counterfeit. As if betrayal could be justified by passion. I turn over, curling my body around Laura's sleeping form, and remind myself that I made the right choice, not just in walking away from them, but in refusing to paper over a wound that deep with insincere forgiveness. Some bridges, once burned, leave only smoke and ash. There's no crossing back. The next morning brings unexpected news. My father calls, his voice unusually hesitant. "Jack, I know where you stand, and I'm not trying to change your mind," he begins, which immediately makes me suspicious. "But there's something you should know. Alex's company went under last month. He didn't want anyone to tell you, but it's bad, son. They're struggling." I grip the phone tighter, a mix of emotions surging through me. "I'm sorry to hear that," I say carefully, but I don't see what that has to do with me." There's a pause, and I can practically hear him choosing his words. "Christina lost her job too. The economy's tough right now, and with 2 kids. Now I understand. Dad, are you asking me to help them financially?" "Not asking," he says quickly. "Just thought you should know. Family news, that's all." But I can hear the unspoken request hanging in the air between us. Help your brother. For the sake of his children. Be the bigger person. "Thanks for letting me know," I say, my voice cooler now. "I need to get to work." After we hang up, I sit at my desk, staring at the blank computer screen. I've done well for myself in the last few years. The app I developed with my business partner took off, and we're in talks with several investors for expansion. I could help Alex and Christina if I wanted to. The question is, do I want to? Laura finds me still sitting there an hour later, lost in thought. "Your dad?" she asks, placing a cup of coffee beside me. I nod. Alex's business failed. Christina lost her job. They're struggling. Laura's expression shifts from surprise to understanding. "And they want your help." "Not directly yet." I take a sip of the coffee. "But it's coming. I can feel it." She sits on the edge of the desk, her eyes serious. "What are you thinking?" I'm thinking about karma and whether I'm a terrible person for feeling a little satisfied right now. She shakes her head. You're not terrible. You're human. They hurt you deeply, and part of you wants them to understand what pain feels like. She takes my hand. The question is, what happens next? What happens next is a week of increasingly direct hints from my family. My mother mentions how Alex and Christina had to pull the kids from their activities because they can't afford the fees. Emily tells me they might lose their house. My father talks about family supporting family in times of need, his eyes holding mine meaningfully. I listen, I nod, and I say nothing. Then comes the call I've been expecting. My phone rings on a Tuesday evening, and Alex's name appears on the screen for the first time in nearly 3 years. I almost don't answer, but a perverse curiosity wins out. I want to hear what he'll say, how he'll phrase it, whether there will be any acknowledgement of what happened between us. Jack. His voice is rougher than I remember, or maybe it's just the strain of the situation. I wouldn't call if we had any other option. No, hello, no, how are you? Straight to the point. What do you need, Alex? I keep my voice neutral, giving away nothing. We're about to lose everything, he says. A tremor in his voice that might be genuine emotion or might be calculated to evoke sympathy. The kids, they don't understand why we had to move to a smaller place, why they can't do their sports anymore. Christina's looking for work, but there's nothing out there, and the creditors are hounding us day and night. I wait, letting the silence stretch between us. I know I have no right to ask, he continues, but I'm desperate. Could you loan us enough to get through the next few months? Just until I can get back on my feet. For the kids, if not for us. There it is. The appeal to protect innocent children from their parents' mistakes. A smart tactic. One designed to bypass my anger and target my conscience. What happened to all your money, Alex? I ask. You and Christina were doing well last I heard. The big house, the luxury cars, the private schools for the kids. He sighs, a rush of static through the phone. The business took most of it. Bad investments, a partner who embezzled funds. We should have been more careful. Lived within our means, but you got used to the good life, I finish for him. The life you built after you stole mine. There's a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Is that what this is about? You're still punishing us for what happened 3 years ago? The audacity of it, the sheer breathtaking audacity, leaves me momentarily speechless. Is that what this is about? As if my refusal to financially bail out the 2 people who betrayed me could only be explained as petty revenge, rather than a perfectly reasonable boundary. I'm not punishing anyone, Alex, I say when I find my voice again. I'm simply not involving myself in your problems. That's what you wanted, remember? When you married my fiancé and told me to get over it? Complete separation. Your life, my life. No overlap. Jack, please, he says, his voice cracking. We're talking about your niece and nephew here. They don't deserve to suffer because of what Christina and I did. I close my eyes, thinking of the children I've only seen in photos. 7 and 5 now, innocent and undeserving of hardship, but also not my responsibility. I'm sorry for what they're going through, I say finally, but this is your problem, not mine. There's a rustling sound, and then Christina's voice comes through, sharp and brittle. How dare you, she hisses. How dare you sit in your perfect life with your perfect new wife while our children go without? You always were selfish, Jack. Always thinking about yourself first. It's no wonder I chose Alex. Her words are designed to wound, to provoke, to make me react emotionally rather than rationally. 3 years ago, they would have worked. Now, I just feel tired. Goodbye, Christina, I say quietly. I wish you both well, but I won't be helping you. I hang up before she can respond, before either of them can say something that might haunt me later. My hands are shaking slightly as I set the phone down. Laura finds me on the balcony, staring out at the city lights. She doesn't speak, just wraps her arms around me from behind and rests her chin on my shoulder. They called, I tell her unnecessarily. She can always read my moods. And they asked for money for the kids' sake. I turn to face her. Christina called me selfish for refusing. Laura's eyes flash with anger, but her voice remains calm. You're the least selfish person I know, Jack. What you are is self-respecting. There's a difference. I pull her closer, grateful beyond words for her presence in my life. My family won't see it that way. Then they're wrong, she says simply. And if they're so concerned about those children, they can help themselves. She's right, of course. But knowing that doesn't make the next few days any easier when my phone explodes with messages from relatives. My mother's tearful voicemail accusing me of holding a grudge at the expense of innocent children. My father's disappointed text about the meaning of family. Emily's message saying she never thought I could be so cold. Each one hits like a physical blow, making me question my decision, making me wonder if I am, in fact, the villain in this story. The worst comes when my cousin posts on social media about certain family members who have enough money to help but choose not to, without naming me directly but making it clear who she means. The comments pile up, most agreeing with her, a few asking for context, all of them discussing my personal business as if it's community property. I show the post to Laura, my stomach knotting with a mixture of anger and shame. Should I respond? I ask her. Set the record straight? She studies the screen, her lips pressed into a thin line. No, she says finally. Engaging just validates the idea that this is anyone's business but yours. Block her, and anyone else who thinks public shaming is an appropriate way to handle family matters. I follow her advice, though it feels like running away. Later that night, I get an email from my uncle, one of the few family members who stood firmly by me after Christina and Alex's betrayal. Jack, he writes, I'm hearing a lot of talk about you refusing to help your brother. I don't know the details, and I don't need to. I just want you to know that whatever you decided, I trust you had good reasons. This may not mean much, but I've got your back. It means more than he knows. This small island of support in a sea of condemnation. The next day, I meet my business partner for lunch, hoping to focus on work and forget about family drama for a few hours. But as soon as I sit down, I can tell something's wrong. Marcus keeps checking his phone, avoiding my eyes. All right, what is it? I ask finally. You've looked at your phone 10 times in 5 minutes. He grimaces, pushing the device across the table. Someone tagged me. I didn't want to bring it up, but since you asked, it's a post from Alex, lengthy and heartfelt, about struggling through hard times and learning who your true friends are. He doesn't mention me by name, but the implication is clear, especially when he talks about family who have turned their backs on us in our time of need, and the lasting pain of rejection when you're at your lowest. The comments are full of supportive messages, people offering help, condemning the unnamed relative who wouldn't step up. Christina has commented too, thanking everyone for their kindness and adding, some people never learn the meaning of forgiveness, but we're blessed to have so many who do. I push the phone back, a bitter taste in my mouth. Social media jury at work, I say, trying to sound more detached than I feel. Trial by Facebook. Marcus looks uncomfortable. Look, I don't know the whole history between you and your brother, but is there any way to resolve this? It's getting public. You think I should give them money to make this go away? I ask, unable to keep the edge from my voice. He raises his hands defensively. I'm not saying that. I'm just concerned about how this might affect you. And honestly, the business, if it keeps escalating. That stops me cold. I hadn't considered how this family drama might bleed into my professional life, how it might impact Marcus and our employees if people start connecting the dots. I'll handle it, I tell him, though I have no idea how. When I get home, I find Laura already there, unusual for a weekday afternoon. She's sitting at the kitchen table, her laptop open in front of her, a strange expression on her face. What's wrong? I ask immediately. You've gone viral, she says, turning the screen toward me, in a weird, localized way. It's a community forum for our city, a thread with hundreds of comments discussing the Turner family drama. Someone has connected Alex's posts to my identity, and now there's a full debate raging about my moral obligations, with people taking sides based on fragmentary information and speculation. Some are defending me. If his brother stole his fiancée, he doesn't owe them anything. Others are condemning, Children shouldn't suffer for their parents' mistakes. A few are suggesting I could sue for the costs of the canceled wedding, adding fuel to an already blazing fire. I sink into a chair, overwhelmed by the public dissection of my private pain. This is insane. Laura closes the laptop. It'll blow over. These things always do. But until then, my family thinks I'm heartless, strangers are debating my character, and Marcus is worried about how it might affect the business. I run a hand through my hair. Maybe I should just give them the money to end this. Is that what you want to do? Laura asks, her voice carefully neutral. I think about it, really think about it. Would paying Alex and Christina make this easier? Probably. Would it solve the underlying issues? Absolutely not. Would I respect myself afterward? I'm not sure. No, I say finally. It's not what I want, but I'm tired of being the bad guy in everyone else's story. Laura reaches across the table for my hand. Then don't be. Write your own story. What does that mean? It means stop reacting and start acting. Make a statement, one statement, laying out exactly where you stand and why. Not for Alex or Christina or even your family, but for yourself. Then, step away from all of it and let people think what they will. I consider her suggestion. A clear, definitive statement would at least put my perspective on record. No more whispers and implications. Just the truth as I see it. Okay, I say, pulling my laptop toward me. Let's do this. We spend the next hour crafting a message that's neither defensive nor attacking, just honest. I post it to my own social media accounts, where most of my family will see it. And then I turn off notifications and close the laptop. Now what? I ask Laura. Now we go out, she says decisively. Dinner, movie, whatever you want. But we're not sitting here watching the comments roll in. She's right, as usual. We spend the evening at our favorite restaurant, then walk along the riverfront, deliberately not checking our phones. It's the most peaceful I've felt in days. When we get home, I finally look at my phone. There are dozens of notifications, but one message stands out. From my mother. We need to talk. In person. Tomorrow. I show Laura, my momentary peace evaporating. This can't be good. She kisses my cheek. Whatever happens, we'll handle it together. The next day, I meet my parents at their house, the home I grew up in, now loaded with new tensions. My father answers the door, his expression unreadable. Jack, he says, stepping aside to let me in. Your mother's in the kitchen. I find her at the table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea that she doesn't seem to be drinking. She looks up when I enter, her eyes red-rimmed but clear. Sit down, she says, not unkindly. I take the chair across from her, bracing myself for whatever's coming. To my surprise, she slides her phone toward me, open to my post from yesterday. I read what you wrote, she says, about how you've spent 3 years rebuilding your life after what they did to you, about how you've never asked them for anything, not even an apology, about how you wish them well but can't be the one to rescue them from their own choices. I nod, unsure where this is going. I've been thinking about it all night, she continues, about how we, your father and I, have been pressuring you to forgive and forget, to act like nothing happened, how we've been asking you to sacrifice your peace of mind for the sake of family harmony. She takes a shaky breath. We were wrong, Jack. We were wrong to ask that of you. Of all the responses I expected, this wasn't one of them. I look to my father, who has been standing in the doorway. He nods, coming to sit beside my mother. We got so caught up in trying to keep everyone together that we didn't see what it was costing you, he says. After reading your post, well, we had to ask ourselves some hard questions about what we've been enabling. My mother reaches for my hand. We're sorry, Jack. We should have stood by you from the beginning. The knot that's been sitting in my chest for days, for years really, begins to loosen. What changed your minds? You did, my father says simply. The way you laid everything out without anger or bitterness, just facts. And then something your uncle said made us think. He asked us if we'd be pushing so hard for reconciliation if it had been someone outside the family who had betrayed you that way. Would we be asking you to forgive a friend who stole from you? A colleague who sabotaged your career? We realized, my mother adds, that we've been holding you to an impossible standard just because Alex is your brother. As if that relationship gives him the right to hurt you without consequences. I swallow hard against the sudden tightness in my throat. So, what happens now? My parents exchange a look. We told Alex and Christina that we're taking out a second mortgage on this house to help them, my father says. But we also told them that they need to get their lives in order, because this is the last time we'll bail them out. And we told them, my mother adds, her voice firmer now, that they need to stop dragging you into their problems publicly. That if they continue, we'll have to reconsider our support. I sit back, shocked by this complete reversal. You didn't have to do that. Yes, we did, my father says. Those children are our grandchildren, and it's our choice to help them, just as it's your choice not to, and we respect that now. My mother squeezes my hand. We just want you to know that we understand, finally, and we're proud of the man you've become, of the life you've built with Laura. We don't want to lose you because we've been blind to what really matters. For the first time in years, I feel the weight of family expectations lift from my shoulders. Not because I've given in or compromised my boundaries, but because they've finally been acknowledged and respected. Thank you, I say, my voice rough with emotion. That means more than you know. We talk for another hour, really talk, about everything that's happened since the wedding that wasn't, about how they felt torn between their children, about how they realize now that their attempts at peacekeeping only deepened the wound, about how they want to be part of my life going forward, on terms that work for all of us. When I leave, my mother hugs me longer than usual, and my father claps me on the shoulder with a warmth I haven't felt from him in years. Tell Laura we'd like to have you both over for dinner next week, my mother says. Just the four of us. I nod, a smile spreading across my face. We'd like that. As I drive home, I think about how strange life is, how the moment you stop fighting for approval is often the moment it finally comes. I think about how standing firm in my decision, despite the pressure and judgment, has led to a new understanding with my parents that might actually be healthier than what we had before. I think about Alex and Christina, about how they'll react to my parents' new stance. Part of me feels a vindictive satisfaction, but mostly I just feel free. Free from the obligation to care, free from the burden of their expectations, free to focus on my own life and happiness. When I walk through the door, Laura is waiting, her face anxious. How did it go? I pull her into my arms, burying my face in her hair, better than I ever could have imagined. As I tell her about the conversation, about my parents' apology, and their new boundaries with Alex and Christina, her smile grows wider. See? She says when I finish. I told you writing your own story was the way to go. I kiss her, grateful beyond words for her wisdom and support. You were right, as usual. That night, as we lie in bed, Laura curled against my side. I find myself thinking not about the past, not about Christina at the altar, or Alex's betrayal, or the years of family pressure, but about the future, about the life Laura and I are building together, about the family we might have someday, about the lessons I'll carry forward from all of this. What are you thinking about? Laura asks, her voice sleepy. That sometimes, I tell her, the hardest decision is the right one, and that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. She smiles against my shoulder. Took you long enough to figure that out, I laugh, holding her closer. Better late than never. In the morning, I check my phone to find a text from Emily. I owe you an apology. Call me when you can. And just like that, another piece of my fractured family begins to heal. Not the whole puzzle. Alex and Christina remain firmly outside my circle of trust, but enough to make me believe in the possibility of genuine connection again. As I make coffee, watching the early sun filter through our kitchen window, I realize that this is what moving on truly means. Not forgetting or pretending, not forcing reconciliation where it doesn't belong, but building something new and meaningful from the ruins of what was lost. I had to lose everything, my fiancé, my brother, temporarily even my parents' understanding, to find what I really needed. The strength to stand alone when necessary, the wisdom to recognize who deserves my trust and energy, and most importantly, the love of a woman who sees me clearly and values me completely. Laura joins me in the kitchen, her hair tousled from sleep, and I hand her a cup of coffee made exactly how she likes it. Thank you, she says, and I know she means for more than just the coffee. No, I tell her, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Thank you for helping me find my way through all of this. She smiles, that beautiful smile that still makes my heart skip, and raises her mug in a toast. To new beginnings. I clink my mug against hers. To new beginnings. And as we stand there in the quiet morning light, I know with absolute certainty that I've made the right choice. Not just about Alex and Christina, but about everything that led me here, to this moment, to this life. A life rebuilt from betrayal's ashes, stronger and more authentic than before. A new life after betrayal.